Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur Podcast. Today, my guest is Brianna Rose. Brianna is an embodiment-based business coach and founder of Light Leader Collective and the Meridian Mapping Method.
Mm.
She helps spiritual entrepreneurs reach their highest potential and to scale their soul-aligned business. After leaving a successful career in corporate, Brianna had a spiritual awakening that led her to create her own science-backed approach that pinpoints and clears energy blocks for lasting transformation. Her work blends energy mastery, somatic success, and feminine leadership, guiding the next generation of light leaders to rise and shine their brightest.
Mm.
Hi, Brianna.
Hi, you
Thank,
nailed that.
thank you. I didn't even practice. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm
I
excited.
love that you are a spiritual business coach,
Mm.
you're helping spiritual counselors, coaches, healers, etc., and that you use spiritual tools yourself. In fact, ones that you've created essentially yourself. So
Yeah.
it's quite a unique service. It's not just a matter of showing people how to use email marketing or something
Mhm.
like that. There's a lot more to it. So I guess let's just start with, can you give me a quick overview in a nutshell, if you will, who you help and how?
Yeah. Oh, good question. So I love helping people that I call it the call because there's this inner calling of I'm meant to do more than what I'm doing right now. And this often happens when you're strapped in at your 9 to 5 and you're just kind of thinking about how did I get here? Or this used to excite me. This is something that I worked so hard for. I should be happy, but I'm not. And so I tend to help those people that are in those moments of their lives where they're realizing that where they are isn't exactly where they want to be any longer, and they feel that inner call to wanting to do something that's either more meaningful, or maybe it's something that's been in their heart their whole life, but society told them or friends or family told them and said, no, you have to go down this path. This is the normal path. Go to school, go to college, get your degree, do this thing, blend in, ignore this other thing that you want to do. Those are the types of people I tend to help. Most of the time, they are women, and most of the time, those women are people that went through, I call it a spiritual awakening. They went through some sort of transition or shift in their life that caused them to start to see their life differently. And they're realizing what I used to get me out of that experience, right? Whether it's tools or meditation or journaling or just some sort of healing modality, what I used literally saved me. And now I want to help other people do it. And so the way I come in is I help you take those gifts, take those tools, and package them into a business that truly can just help others heal. And then I also have a second way that I help people, which is sharing my tools, my certifications for those that are looking for deeper transformation in their clients' lives.
Awesome. So is that the Light Leader Collective, that group that feels that calling?
Yeah, so the Light Leader Collective is the company. So it's like our big umbrella of who we help, who we serve. It's people that are feeling that call, that want to lead people or guide people through an experience. They feel that calling to kind of step out of their shell. And then underneath the Light Leader Collective, we have Academy of Light, which is my business building program. And then I have the Light Leader Certification Program, where I'm certifying you in the somatic tools that I've created and methodologies that I have founded over the last decade or so on how to help people heal, lead your clients through transformational sessions, and build your own healing based business.
Awesome. So what was your spiritual awakening? Can you
Yeah.
details?
Yeah. Here for the details. I like to think I came out of the womb kind of having a spiritual awakening. Um, but the reason I say that is because I was always a highly sensitive child. I felt energy. I had a lot of anxiety growing up that I didn't realize was just not knowing how to channel energy. I could see spirit when I was a young kid, felt energy and just knew things that I shouldn't have known, right? I knew things before they happened, or I knew things were going on that weren't being said. And so that was kind of my life. And I suppressed it because that's not normal, to be able to feel that way. So I wanted to be normal. So I suppressed those things. And I was raised Roman Catholic. And I remember doing like my prayers at night and being like, God, Jesus, make these gifts go away. I don't want to feel this way. This is so like, I remember that was like part of my nighttime prayer after my Our Father and Hail Mary and all of that. That was my prayer too. And so for a while, it kind of worked. And then when I was in my early 20s, one of my closest friends passed away, and it was a really sudden um, passing away. Like no one expected it. And I remember like one of our last conversations, for whatever reason, one of our last conversations that we had. I'm originally from New York. And so we were at a bagel shop, which is like so New York. We're at a bagel shop having breakfast. And as we're eating, all my friends knew that I had this like spiritual gift. And I remember her looking at me and she was like, if I die first, I'm going to come back and haunt you because I know you're the one that's going to be able to see me and feel me. And that was like, and she was joking, of course, but like when she passed, like that was like the memory that I remembered. And I was like, oh shit, she's going to try to contact me and speak to me. And so at the time, I'm working as a PR marketing director. I've got my like girl boss energy on. I'm 23 years old. I'm like, I'm going to climb this corporate ladder. Like I just was like so in that masculine hustle energy. And now I have this like very emotional, grief stricken thing that's occurring. And then I'm also like my intuitive gifts. It was like all those prayers that I said to suppress them. It's like they were just removed instantly. And all of a sudden, boom, my gifts were there. It was very, very overwhelming, as I'm sure you can imagine. But I knew in that moment, I was like, she's going to try to talk to me. I need to figure out what to do and how to communicate back to her. And so I started off first and foremost learning about mediumship and channeling. And I spent a bunch of years studying that. I thought that was going to be my path, being a medium, but I just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me doing that. And in that discovery of myself and my intuitive gifts, I started to realize like what I was doing as a PR and marketing director, while it was normal and I had a lot of boxes checked with it, it wasn't making me happy. And I was like, I'm 24 years old, 25 years old. Yes, I'm making good money. Yes, I have my dream car. Yes, I've paid off all of my student loans, but I'm miserable now at 24, 25. What am I going to feel at 65? Right. It's like if I'm already miserable at this age, I can't do this for 30 more years.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. And so I started to just go down this path of like, what can I do? What does this look like? And so I ended up leaving my 9 to 5 and I was like, I'll just start my own business consulting. I'll just do web design, I'll do consulting that will pay the bills. And I'm going to just spend a lot of time discovering energy, discovering whatever this thing is that I'm trying to process. And so that led me just down a path, and I did that for a couple of years. I like to think of it for Harry Potter fans. I was like, I was very much in my muggle life during the day. I was like doing like consulting and web design, and it felt so like strategic and girl bossy. But at night, I was like in my witch's lairs. Like I was like studying energy and working with different mentors and reading all the books. I was obsessed. And so I did that for a while. And what I started to realize was it didn't have to be one or the other. Like I loved business and marketing, and I also loved energy. And I was like, how do I bring these two things together? And what I started to recognize and realize was so many of my business consulting clients and even web design clients, and I know Bev, we spoke about this a little bit, where like these people would come to me and they thought that like the website was going to save them, or they thought that like the ad campaign was going to save them. And we would map out like the most perfect marketing campaign, but then imposter syndrome would pop up, or they would just ghost, right? It's like all of a sudden they were gone. They didn't show up for it. They didn't apply it. Same thing with the website. I'd be like, cool, let's design your website. And they're like, okay, so are you going to write all the content for me? I'm like, no, I can't write the content for your business, right? This is you. I don't, this has to come from you. And so what I started to realize was there was this like limiting belief component to success, that the most successful clients had this natural leadership quality. They had this natural like tunnel vision where they can just go all in on what it is that they set out to do. Whereas some other people were just stuck in loops and stuck in limiting beliefs and stories and patterns and whatnot. And I was like, I think there's a connection here that I can start to bring in this like energetic piece that I'm learning and pair it with business strategy. And at this time, this was like 2014, 2015, 2016. currently at 2025, this is somewhat normal, blending like energy with business. But back then, people were not doing it. And it was like such a weird concept for people. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try this out on just a couple of people and see what happens. And so I started to blend some more of, we call it somatics now, but at the time it was just blending like breath work and meditation, and even just some movement to relate to someone's block and what they were going through in their business. And I started to realize that there were certain postures, there were certain movements, there were certain breath works that then related or could correspond to their fear of being seen, or their fear of following through on an idea, or the imposter syndrome that would settle in and be like almost crippling, or even the perfectionism that they would get caught in, and then they would want to make everything so over edited, so perfect that they never actually followed through. And I was
Finished
like,
it.
oh. Never, yeah, they never actually, yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, there's something here. Let's start to relate and see like what postures, what breath works, what movements relate to these like common business blocks. And I started to just work with that and follow that. And I started to share that with my clients. And it was almost like I snapped my fingers and people were healing. Like people were starting to see shifts. They were starting to take action. Their businesses were starting to grow. And I was like, oh, damn, I think I'm onto something here. Blending these things together, blending like basically the nervous system and the body with the business. And so this was 2016 going into 2017. And at this time, my web design business just like dried up. It's like no clients are showing up. And I was like, oh shoot, I have to
It's a
pay my
sign.
bills. It was like the sign I didn't want to see. I was like, well, I'll just keep doing this thing, that's making money, and I'll stay in my safe zone in my witch's lair and do this, at night under the covers, basically. But I'm normal. Hire me for web design. And so for a while, I had felt like I was supposed to do this like spiritual thing, but I was scared. I was scared. I was like, what is the world going to think of me? What are my parents going to think of me? What are my family? Like,
Mhm.
they're going to think I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But I know it to be true. And so the universe will always do for you what you cannot do for yourself. And so all of the clients dried up, and I had an option. I was like, I either have to go back and get a 9 to 5, or I trust this thing that I'm doing. And at the time, I was calling it Kundalini business coaching, because that's really what my focus was blending the Kundalini postures with business strategy. And I kept hearing my meditation, like, do it, and everything will shift. And I'm still scared. And so it got to the point for so many of us, right? It's like we have to hit like the rock bottom. We have to be
Yeah.
like in dire straits to finally make a decision. And so I made the decision. And the craziest thing was, I didn't have a website. I had just put up a landing page that was like, see you later. Like, we're not here any longer. Stay tuned. And I didn't have like a huge following on Instagram. Like, I didn't have all these things that like marketers and business professionals tell you that you need. And closed it down and just made an announcement. I was like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. This is what I have been doing, actually. Haha. And it's working. Who wants to try this out? And within 2 weeks, my one-on-one roster was booked. Like, it was booked solid. And I was like, I'd never been that booked before. And I was like, okay, I think this is it. Started working with people. They started seeing shifts. They started seeing results within like 2 months. I had a wait list of 6 months because people were seeing results, and and this was all like word of mouth, basically, because the website was still down, and because I didn't have time to even fix it, and people were just coming in, and my business just started scaling. And so it just, that was the start. We're still in it. It still feels like we haven't even hit our like climax yet, because we're just growing and expanding. And I'm evolving and growing and expanding too. And so what was Kundalini Business Coaching is now the Light Leader Collective. And it's really beautiful to just be on this journey, on this path. And I'm so grateful for that earlier version of me that took that leap and said, you know what, I'm going to try this out. And now here we are, 2025. We reach thousands of people every single year with our courses and programs. We are internationally recognized and accredited. We have certified students literally all across the globe. And it's so much better than like an earlier version of me could have ever even imagined. Like, I couldn't have even thought this up. Even if I tried, I didn't even know that this was available. Um, so
You
that's where I'm
didn't
at
you
right
didn't know the how.
now. I didn't know the how. And the thing is, I think what's important about that is like, I didn't know the how, but I still showed up, right? I still was like, well, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm here, universe.
I'm here.
Show
Yeah,
me the way.
exactly. Well, a couple things about all that. fantastic what you just said. And part of it explains so much about why people have, they stop in the middle of the project and don't continue. They just can't. There's a wall.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's because of these energetic blocks and things that are going on. Because as soon as you get rid of that, right? They're then able to do these things.
Yeah.
So my second question is, was it your friend, do you think, that was talking to you about going forward with this?
Yeah, so I even have chills like as you share that because she has such a strong presence even to this day in my life. She comes through in every single energy healing session I receive. Like she's always there. She's been an incredible guide and teacher on the other side, and I feel like I can say that without getting like there's an emotion here, but without me like crying about it because I know she's still here, right? Like I know that there's still a part of her, and I know that I don't feel like I would have landed on this path in the way that I did. I would have potentially been here. I would have taken a lot longer, but I feel like that experience with her was a huge pivotal moment and also a catalyst to go forward down this path. So I'm yes, 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 it's her and
Yes.
also just entirely grateful for it all.
How beautiful. You are a medium. See?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
There you go. Okay. So I'm just, thinking, okay, well, how does this all work? Where, what are I know you said, we talked earlier and you said it's based on the Chinese Meridian system. And so what is happening that is allowing your clients to flourish where they couldn't before?
Yeah, great question. So I've spent like the last decade studying the body, studying the nervous system, studying the emotional connection between the mind, the body, the business. And so within all of that, what I started to recognize and notice was there was just patterns. As much as we all are so unique as humans, there are patterns that we fall into that are not as unique as we think that they are. And those patterns can be represented as nervous system dysregulation patterns and the way that stress can show up in our life, limiting beliefs can show up in our life, and so on. And so, as I dove deep in the last decade on all of this, I ended up creating a methodology. It's called the Meridian Mapping Method. And so, essentially, there's a couple of stages to it. The first phase is one when someone shows up and they're saying, and this can be used in all industries, but I work with entrepreneurs. So I'm just going to give like an entrepreneurial example. If someone's like, hey, Brianna, I have all of these creative ideas for my business. I get so excited for it. And then when I go to show up and take action, I start to second guess myself. I start to overthink it. Then I get overwhelmed by all of the things that I can do. And then I hide, I avoid, I take time off from social media. I don't show up, I don't create content, I don't launch, and I hide out and I kind of go into this like very like dark creative space. And then when I show back up, I start the cycle all over again. Then I get excited about another idea, and then all these ideas come in, right? And so like that's a very common thing that entrepreneurs struggle with,
Yeah.
especially intuitive entrepreneurs, because their crown chakra is like wide open and all of the ideas come through, right? And so for me, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, that's a very specific pattern loop that people get stuck in. And so using the meridian mapping method, that specific example for me with what I'm trained in, what I've created, when someone shares that, I'm like, oh, I actually know where that pattern lives in the body. And so the body has a meridian system, it has energy channels. I think of the meridian system as energetic highways. And just like on a highway, it can get backed up when there's a car crash. When you have a trauma, whether it's big T trauma or little T trauma, it creates a car crash in your energy system. And so that's why it's like no matter what meditation you do, no matter what Reiki healing you do, and I love these things.
Mhm.
I love Reiki and I'm actually a Reiki master too, so I'm not knocking it, but those things are surface level and they're not actually restructuring the body and the nervous system. So it's like your energy clearing, but you only see the shifts of that energy clearing for like 24 hours before you're back into the loop and back into the pattern. And so if we go back to that example of someone struggling with like that creative cycle that they get sucked into, for me as a practitioner, as a certified light leader coach, what that's telling me is okay, her water meridian is imbalanced. And so the water meridian has a very specific area of the body. And what's really cool about the meridian system is it holds energy, right? It creates blocks, but we can also release the blocks too. And we can reprogram the body and we can reprogram the fascia. So, like the muscular system of the body. And then, therefore, we're actually reprogramming the nervous system. And then we're also rewiring the mind. And so, if we go back to that example of that person with all the creative ideas, when someone shares that, immediately my mind goes, okay, she has a water meridian block. Then I go to, okay, I know where the water meridian lives in the body. Water meridian, one of them is the upper and lower back. Oftentimes, people that are stuck in that creative cycle tend to have lower back pain. They tend to have some ankle pain. They tend to have lower restriction in or limited mobility in the back of their neck, and it's because the energy is literally clogged there. And so then what we do next is we apply a somatic sequence. And so somatic is just the Greek word for the body. And what that means is we are going to move the body just like when you work out and you're creating muscle memory. It's the same theory here where we are going to move the body in a new way to retrain it to essentially release the block in the meridian channel. And so, since now we know where that block might live for that person, I would prescribe a somatic sequence that targets that area of the body. And they will practice it multiple times because, again, we have to recreate the muscle memory and have the body do something differently for, a couple of days. We normally do it for at least 2 weeks, and then we check in and see how the body is. But we're creating new muscle memory. And in that new muscle memory, we're also hitting the nervous system, the emotional system. And then the mind is actually quite pliable. It can be taught new things, but we need to do it multiple times. It's not just we think an affirmation and then it sticks. We have to start to really rewire the neural pathways. And so we have that person practicing that customized somatic sequence, but then it doesn't just end there because we can't just sit there and like meditate and do breath work and have millions of dollars land in our lap, right? So the next phase is once they are practicing and moving the body, then we apply in the transformational coaching. So I like to think of it as the body starts to rewire, the body's releasing those blocks that were stored in the meridians, but now where does the energy go? Now it's coming up to the mind, and now the person's limiting beliefs need to be addressed. And so then we do some mindset work on them, and then also some business strategy. And so we do this as essentially like body up instead of top down. Most people just address the mindset and they want you to like affirm your way through the block or think about it and journal. And those things aren't bad, but they just won't stick if the body still remembers. There's been so many scientific studies now, which is really cool, that essentially confirms all of this and validates all this of how trauma does live in the body. And trauma is big traumatic things, but also just maybe someone in preschool said you suck, and for some reason, like, your body remembered it. Now you're like, I suck, like I can't do anything, I'm stupid, or like whatever belief that you're carrying, you might not even realize it, but it's living in your body, it's living in your cells. And until you address that, the body, the nervous system will always go to what's safe. Doesn't mean that safe is good, but your safety is like, I suck, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I can't be trusted. And it's just repeating those behaviors, even though you're telling yourself, I'm intelligent, I'm empowered, right? Those things you don't actually believe it until the body's on board. So we're addressing the body, then we're bringing the mind into it, and then the last step is that action step. So it's the following through the strategy. For business owners, it would be like, okay, now we're going to get clear on your message. But we have certified light leader coaches all across the globe, as I mentioned, and they all don't just work with entrepreneurs. We have nutritionists, we have relationship experts, just life coaches, and so this can be applied in so many industries. But that's just the way I personally use it.
Yeah, because somebody who's got a practice in something could
Yeah.
use this as an additional modality
Mhm.
to their practice as well, and it would be super effective.
Totally.
That is fascinating. How does it feel? Do people feel different in their body, say after the 2 weeks?
Yeah. So sometimes they'll practice it shorter or longer. It really depends on your body. Like, let's say if something happened to you when you were 3 and you're now 50, guess what? It might take a little bit more time to do this because it's been living with you for 47 years, right? Versus if something happened a month ago and you're just working through that. So the time, what I train my students in is like how to essentially look at the body and look at the person and say, how much longer do they need? And it's very customized based on the person, what they're going through, etc. But there definitely is a shift in the body. And there's two reasons why. One, I feel like as women, because primarily I work with women and a lot of my students also work with women, but this can be used on all bodies and even children too, which is really cool. But as women, I think it's shifting, or I know it's shifting, but we've just been taught not to feel safe in our bodies. Like we've been taught, we don't have safety here to kind of like not be a part of our bodies. Society tells us so much about what we should look like, how we should act, and diets, hair, all the things. And so I've found that there's a beautiful healing process that happens for women where they actually can feel their bodies. I've had women, and even my clients have had clients where we'll have them get into a posture and they're like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever felt that, like that muscle before. Like it actually almost feels numb because they haven't actually touched their body. Not that we're touching ourselves, but they just haven't even felt safe here because for so many years, society has told them, like, suck it in, lose weight, do this. Like there's not even a connection between them and like their true selves, their body, their soul, etc. So that's one part of it. And then the other part of it is, in order to rewire something, right, we're literally like rewiring the body and the nervous system. The body does get a little cranky sometimes because it's just like when you go to the gym for the first time and you haven't lifted weights in a while, like you're fucking sore that first day, that first week, that first month, right? Because you're like, I haven't done this. I have moved my body in this way,
Yeah.
and your body is reacting and feels some sort of pain. And so, yes, that's kind of, we're doing an energetic workout essentially. And so there is oftentimes a shift of feeling that we might have because you're going into a posture, you're going into a breath work that like you wouldn't normally do. And that's intentional because we have to target that area that's holding on to all of this energy and trauma and beliefs, and we have to restructure it and kind of like bring it out like a sponge. And so there is
Mhm.
this process of almost resistance. For example, one that I do pretty much every day, my arms are up like this at 60 degrees, and it's only for 3 minutes, but it feels like the longest fucking 3 minutes of your life
I would
sometimes,
be.
right? And you're holding it there. And the reason why you're holding it there is the meridians you're targeting, but you have to hold it for an extended period of time. If I just went like this and then drop them, that would do nothing, right? It's like
Yeah.
I have to hold it to essentially put pressure on the energy channel to open up and to release the block. I had a mentor once who had said, when you're feeling pain, it's just the block like releasing from your body, right? It's just like the body kind of like, oh, letting it go and cleansing. You shouldn't be in physical pain where it's like metallic and it feels like it's like you're injuring yourself, but the mind is quite interesting. It creates stories. I'll be honest, I've done some crazy practices in my life, and I've done ones where my arms have been up like this for 62 minutes straight. And I will tell you, your mind goes into a story where you're like, put your arms down. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? Oh my God, this hurts. This hurts. Oh my God, Brianna, put your arm right. And it just kind of spirals. And it's just really interesting to watch the mind. But we don't give ourselves or our bodies the credit of like how actually strong they are and what they can endure, and what is capable. And so then also, I just want to add in too, there is also sometimes like this euphoric experience because you've released the block and people are like crying because their body just feels so good. And there's just this like emotional release that they have too. So it really depends on like what we're working on, what your experience is, and what's coming up. And I always say this to my clients is what's coming up is coming up for you, right? It's coming up to serve you and to help you heal. And whatever is coming up, like you can handle, right? Whatever you're feeling, your body is so wise and so intelligent. You wouldn't be experiencing something or going through something if you weren't ready to actually face it either.
Right. And do people need to know what the trauma was? Or, when if,
Great
for
question.
example, somebody is feeling, very emotional and they start crying, well, do they know what they're crying about?
Yeah, great question. So I feel like this is the big difference between coaching and therapy. And I think it's important to even speak about this, especially as the coaching industry as a whole is growing and expanding. And there's currently like no regulation on coaching, which is something, side note, I'm looking to shift with our certification. But with there being such a closeness to therapy and coaching, for me, like the deciding factor is with therapy. And I love therapy. I'm not knocking therapy. when I say this, but therapy kind of, I wouldn't say it keeps you stuck, but you're looking for the trauma. You're like, okay, when did this happen? Who did it to me? What was the story? I was 5 years old, right? It's like you're looking backwards to find the answers. Where for me as coaching, yeah, we might talk, we it might come up, that something happened, but we're forward thinking and we're saying, what do you want to do now? Who do you want to become? What are your next steps? What does the next level look like for you? What is the vision board, right? And so we're focused on the future and getting you towards the future. We're focused on forwarding the action. And so, yeah, some people are crying and whatnot. Yeah, traumas might come up or stories might come up. And
Mhm.
maybe you do want to supplement with therapy if that's what you feel like you need to do, but you don't need to get attached to it. And what I mean by that is so many times this is the power of the mind and the ego is like, we'll be feeling the release and we're like, wait, where did that come from? Was that what was that related to? And then we can get stuck in that cycle of like trying to figure it out and reliving the experiences when in reality that doesn't actually serve us, right? Like then we're staying in that cycle of healing. And I want to push you forward into the future. We don't need to know. If we're releasing and it's letting go, we can just trust that our bodies know what it needs to do. When you think about just even like the woman's body, like what it does and how it creates life, like we don't know all of that, right? All of a sudden we're like, oh my God, I create a human that has nails and hair and like all of these things, right? Like it's fascinating. Do I logically understand how that happened? No, right? But the body had an intelligence of its own to do that, go into the contractions, push the baby out, all of that, right? And this is all humans, men too, are incredibly fascinating. Like the fact that our heart beats, the fact that we breathe, like these are amazing things that the body can do, that knows how to do. And I think part of this is just surrendering and trusting that it knows how to heal this stuff too. Like this stuff is like so small in comparison to like what it even does every single day for us, that just healing this stuff that we've experienced, we don't need to know the depth of it. If you do want to explore that, you can definitely work with a therapist and dive deep. But is it a requirement? For me, no, because we're looking at the future and saying, how do I become my vision board, right? How does it not just hang on my wall, but how do I actually become it?
Exactly. And so what about those of us who've had more than one trauma?
Mm.
Some people probably have a lot of traumas. Do they
Yeah,
all go at the same time or
they can, right? Part of this is like not, we don't have to get caught up in that, right? Probably all of us have so much that's happened to us, but
sure.
I don't necessarily feel like trauma is bad in a way because it made us who we are, right? It's like we didn't have any of these things. Who would we be? We'd be just these happy people with no depth to us, right? Like this
Right.
gives us depth, compassion. There are things that we needed to learn and experience. And the way I'm using this and the way I teach my graduates to use this is helping people to achieve their goals, right? It's like what is the block that's preventing you from achieving that goal? Is it finding your soulmate? Is it getting pregnant? Is it making $1 million business? And within that, we're looking at those blocks specifically instead of saying, holy moly, you've been through a lot. Let's try to address all 1,000 things right now. Like, no, that's overwhelming. That's not going to serve you, right? We're so focused on like, what am I manifesting, right? Or like, what am I becoming and why aren't I becoming that thing? What is that block and addressing that so we can move forward?
Exactly. And then once that's sort of done, then things like your vision board and your law of attraction and your affirmations and things like that can actually start to work.
Yeah, we say they stick. Where we're like, then those things can
Stick.
actually stick. Because without it, I've done this too, and maybe you've done it too, Bev, where it's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna chant this mantra and this affirmation. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, I don't know if I believe this. Do I really believe that this can happen for me? Right. It's like the mind gets involved. And so that's why I say stick, because once you address this bodily component to it, this nervous system component to it, you can actually believe the things, right? Versus like as you're chanting it, you're like, this can't happen. I'll never be a millionaire. Or I'll never do this. We want to make sure that those things are working and sticking because you can actually believe them.
Exactly. Now, you said that you could see spirit and feel energy and things like that. So that that's a little different than the average person, even though potentially I suppose we all have that.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is, you don't, do you need that to be able to help people using this method?
Not at all. I don't even use that to this day. Once I decided that wasn't for me, it's like boop. Like we're not channeling into that. I think intuition we all have. And I feel like for me, what I notice is a lot of practitioners actually rely too heavily on their intuition with client sessions. But in that relying on their intuition, the imposter syndrome comes up and the ego comes up, and it's like, do you really know what you're doing? Can you really find the client's block? Or, you know, right? It's like that comes into play, and that's why I created this method, this like systematic approach where you actually don't need to use your intuition. This is backed by science, and it's an entire method that, yes, speaks about energy, and we're talking about some like spiritual esoteric things, but it's very rooted and grounded that the average person can use, experience, and understand. I love the intuition, but as I just shared, it takes a lot to make sure that intuition is pure and that you can really trust it when you're using it, because in those beginning stages, we all have it. The ego is going to make you question yourself. And so this meridian mapping method is a systematic approach to finding the blocks and busting through them, no matter who you are or how you identify or what your body looks like or even your age.
Exactly. So cool. Do, do you have a sort of example of, without revealing anything that shouldn't be revealed or anything, but just an example of a client that you've helped that really stuck with you?
Mm. Oh gosh, so many.
Mm.
I have a client. Um, and when she listens to this, she's going to know it's her, but she won't care. I have a client that what was really interesting is her and I actually grew up together, and we went to high school together. We were good friends. We went to college together, and we joke. We have this one photo of us graduation day. It's like, you know, the selfie, we're taking a photo, and then we never saw each other after that. Like we just went down different paths. We both were in corporate marketing, but in totally different areas, sectors, whatnot. And randomly, because we stayed friends on Facebook, she reached out to me a couple years ago now, and she was like, Brianna, what the hell are you doing? Like, what is this stuff? Tell me what it is that you're doing. And so I shared with her what I was doing, and she came to a live event that I happened to be hosting. And in that event, mind you, she came in with just this like corporate girl boss energy. Um, she ended up healing herself. She was having all of these really horrible stomach issues, and the doctors were kind of like, I don't know, we're not really sure what's going on. She's tried all of the things. She went to all of the specialists. They couldn't really figure it out. Um, and they said to her, I think it's more psychosomatic. You need to go see a psychosomatic based doctor. And she had to wait like 6 months to go see the type of doctor. Like it was like a crazy amount of time. And she's like, oh my God, I have to wait 6 months to heal. So, anyway, she came to the event. She practiced some of these sequences. I didn't know any of this, did not know what she was going through, whatnot. After the event, she continued to practice some of the sequences, and all of her symptoms went away. And her biggest thing, because we're both from New York, she sent me a voice memo. She's like, I can eat pizza again. Like I can act, which was like huge for us. I was like, oh my God. And she's able to heal herself. And she's like, I have never experienced anything like this. I cannot believe that I can actually eat the foods that I want to eat. I'm not in pain any longer. She was able to learn how to heal herself. Then, of course, she joined our certification program. Now she helps other women because she was in the nutrition field. Now she's helping other people, you know, recover from binge eating and diet culture
Mm.
and all of that. So that's a really cool story of like the self healing, and then just seeing her make these massive shifts. And she left her corporate career. Now she's all in on her own business. So that's something. And then another one that I just want to share, to see another perspective of it. One of my clients was getting stuck at an income level, and she was burning out. And I was like, cool, let's rework your practice and the tools and what you're doing, what's happening in your body. We did that. And there was, of course, resistance, because it's like what we want sometimes to do the thing to get to where we want, we don't want to do, right? Like the ego's like, no, don't do it, you know? And so there was some resistance. But then she ended up practicing the tools, and she ended up having a $500,000 launch, her highest launch ever. Yeah. I mean, she already was having a six-figure launches, which is amazing, but 500,000, huge quantum leap. And after that, she was like, holy shit, Brianna, I will listen to every single thing you tell me and what we do. And then we did it again about a year later. And she's like, okay, can like, because then the mind gets into play. She's like, can I do 500,000 again? I don't know, right? It feels really scary. So we reworked her practice again. and it didn't look like it was going to work like the last week. And I was like, keep practicing, keep doing it. You've got this. And she ended up doing 650,000.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah,
Oh my
huge
gosh.
stuff. So, and of course, I want to say she didn't just sit there and she wasn't chanting her ass off. We were working on her business strategy and her messaging and all of that, but there is a true energetic component to it where you've got to hold that energy and frequency and not self-sabotage. And so she went from 500,000 was a crazy leap for her, but then she did it again and she increased it to
Oh
$650,000
my
launch, which
gosh.
was life-changing for her.
And now she's helping other people do the same thing
Yeah.
or something similar.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So for those who might be thinking about the certification
Mm,
that you're offering, who would
yes.
be a good candidate? How would I know if I'm a good candidate for that?
Yeah, great question. So the certification is great for people that are new to the healing space or new to the coaching space and they feel like they want to help people, but they don't have tools yet. And so this happens a lot where people apply for my business program and then as we're talking, they're like, "Well, I don't even know what I would do in a client session," or like, I don't feel confident to hold a client session. I know I want to help people, but I'm not really sure what I would do besides like just like talking to them, right? So like that this is a great fit for people like that feel that calling of I want to help people transform their lives, but I don't have the tools to help them do that. So the cert is great for that. And also the certification is great for anyone that's already in this space or already helping people. So you can be a therapist, an acupuncturist, a coach, a healer, a chiropractor, a physical therapist. And you're like, you know what? I could be doing more for my clients. They're getting stuck. And like, I'm using my tools and I'm like, I've maxed out on what I know. But I know that there's something more. They keep coming back. They keep repeating behavior. They're getting stuck. And I know I'm not getting to like the root cause of their blocks. And that's where I come in and help because somatics, the body, is really what's going to help the clients have long lasting transformation and help you kind of guarantee that, right? Once we really step into that and confidently say, I can help you. I know I'm going to help you. You're going to have long lasting transformation. You're not going to come back in a month from now and say, Brianna, what happened? I'm back to where I was. That is such a game changer for people. And what's really cool about this is you can use these tools in a one on one setting, in group programs, retreats, speaking engagements. I teach you how to use this as a versatile tool to really expand your ability to help people heal in different manners and different mediums, and really just stand in that. This is a revolution that's really coming for our industry of the body because people are realizing, like, it used to be mindset where people are like, I need a mindset coach. Now we're realizing, oh my God, my mind is still the same even though I'm trying to do all these tools, why am I still stuck here? And so people are realizing that those tools are helpful, but they're not creating that lasting transformation. And so that's really where the certification comes into play too.
That's awesome. I think it's so fantastic that, you could take like a newbie.
Yes,
You don't
yes,
have to have experience as a coach, as a healer,
yeah,
any of those things.
yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, excuse me, Brianna. Fighting a little bit of a cold here. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so impressed with what you have been able to do, pivoting from your other career and just creating these tools and creating these programs and having so much success. And it totally makes sense. Like it totally makes sense to me what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Oh,
And I want to thank you for what you're doing for so many other people, getting
mm.
past these blocks and really making a success of their business. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here. Do you have any last words of wisdom for us?
You know I do.
Maybe.
Well, thank you for all of those beautiful words. I'm just really happy to be here and just show people that there's another way. They have an opportunity that they've been like the magic wand this whole time, but no one told them that they were the magic wand and they can create and heal and truly change their lives from the inside out. So that's one thing. But the last thing that I want to share is oftentimes when people listen to these episodes, and myself included, we're listening and we're getting like ideas. We're like, ooh, like maybe I should do this in my life, or maybe this would help me, or right. It's like we get these creative ideas. And so I lovingly challenge anyone that's here that received some sort of creative idea or action step to follow through on it. Because oftentimes we listen and we get the idea and we're like, oh my God, that episode was with Beth was amazing. And then it's like 1 week later, nothing shifted, no action was taken, and then you forget. And so I lovingly challenge every single one of you that has the idea to take one little tiny step towards that idea after this podcast episode. I challenge you to that. And if you do it, let me know. I'd love to cheer you on and support you too.
Beautiful. What a beautiful message. And how do we get in touch with you to report?
I love hanging out on Instagram. So you can find me at I am Brianna Rose. Brianna has two N's. Slide into my DMs. It's really me and not a robot. Say hello. Love connecting and just meeting people that were inspired from this conversation.
Awesome. And we will put that in the description box as well. So
Perfect.
thank you so much, Brianna. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm sure it's been very enlightening for a lot of people.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for
All
having me.
right. We'll talk to you again soon, okay?
Bye.
Bye.